The African American Legends highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas varied as politics, sports, aviation, business, literature, and theater. We will explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they had been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, and lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and with us today is Voza Rivers, the Executive Director of the New Heritage Repertory Theater, head of the Harlem Arts Alliance and everything else in Harlem. Hi, Voza. Glad to have you.
Hi, Dr. Brown. How are you?
I'm doing fine. As we were talking before the show, black theater is emerging, and people like you are doing so much to help it going, particularly in our community, in the black community. How do you think black theater is moving along, particularly in the communities of color?
The theaters that have 30 and more years of service to the community, we are all standing on very fragile ground.
Is that, you mean like New Heritage?
New Heritage Theater.
Federal?
Yes, New Heritage. We're now in our 48th year. Black Spectrum Theater in Queens, the National Black Theater, New Federal Theater, Hadley Players, Negro Ensemble Company. We're on fragile ground based on the way we receive a lot of our funding for the productions that we do. There's a heavy reliance still on support from government funding,
which is being cut,
and which is being cut severely. We're then forced into the area of soliciting foundations, but we're also knocking on the same doors that the major cultural institutions are knocking on. And if those funders whose capacity to do grants is shrinking, it makes it even much more difficult when you see New Heritage alongside the public theater knocking on the doors for funding for their programs. What needs to happen, and this is ongoing, I mean, this is my 48th year doing this, is that the reliance on the communities that we serve really has to demonstrate that we are important in order to ensure that we will be around in the next 50 years.
Well, one of the purposes of black theater is both to inform and entertain and reflect on the black experience.
And to educate.
And of course, to educate. Now, one of the questions is, how much entertainment and how much education goes into black theater?
Well, having a sense of not only what our particular taste are, meaning the leadership of these various institutions, it's important that we really understand what is needed by the community that we serve. So if I want to have an elitist attitude about the direction that the theater is going in creatively and not serving the needs of the constituents who really want to get away from the turmoil of unemployment, not being able to send their kids to decent schools to get their proper education, all of those things. I have to come up with a creative presentation that takes them away from that, but of still maintaining the quality of the work that we know that's important for the institutions. So for us, for example, we're just very, very fortunate as we look, as we talk about the succession of our theater, which is now 48 years old. Who's going to be that next charismatic leader? Where is he going to come from? How will he relate?
Where is she going to come from?
Oh, where is he or she? You're right. Where is he or she? I said he because I'm kind of predicting who that next leader is. We're working with that person now, so that in 50 years, which is 2 years from now for us, we would have in place a succession plan with a younger leadership, and he will surround himself with qualified females and others and people of color to run our organization.
Well, to what extent does the creative leader or the executive leader determine the creative path, or to what extent to determine the commercial and the outreach to the community? How do you match that? You've done a very good job with it, but how do you put that together?
First and foremost, my objective is to present quality productions that are very affordable, that reflects the communities in which we serve. There are thousands of stories that we can choose from. And If it has commercial success, it's fine and we welcome that. But it's really more important that emerging and established artists, writers, directors get an opportunity to showcase their work. And so we have different levels of what we present, and not all of it has a commercial objective. Our objective is to present to the widest possible audience at a price point that they can afford. And in light of the challenges, financial challenges facing these institutions, it's harder to do that, but that's our mandate. And so what does that mean? As a leader, for me, it means that I take other jobs and put in my own resources to make up for the lack of what you call, quote unquote, the commercial success. It's not about commercial success for me, it's about the work.
Well, you have the Dwyer Theater as your home theater.
Yes.
Which is very, very fortunate, very well located in Harlem. So to what extent does that actually help you to move things along?
Like having your own home gives you an opportunity to do a lot of experimental work. It cuts down on going other places and having to rent their spaces, but it's a very intimate space. So most of our readings are done there at the Dwyer. It's a 77-seat intimate space, but it's a great incubator space. But we have these other institutions with larger spaces, and so our goal and our rationale for starting small and then expanding is that City College has said, we have spaces for you. The Schomburg Center, Columbia University, the Theater at Riverside Church, the Museum of the City of New York, El Museo del Barrio, all with larger theaters who have said, we need content. We are, as a theater, a content provider. I've formed those relationships. I've shared those relationships with my other colleagues so that if we don't have our own spaces, we have opportunities to have spaces within the communities that we serve by having relationships with the leadership of those larger institutions.
Now, the Harlem Arts Alliance, which you coordinate,
yes,
does this for a lot of organizations, not just theater, but they do it for music, they do it for art, they do it for drama.
Yes.
How does that fit into your work?
Well, in each instance, with my conversation with you, I connect all the dots with every institution that I'm involved with. And so the Harlem Arts Alliance really kicked off 10 years ago, and we started with 12 organizations, and the goal then was to represent, articulate, and facilitate opportunities for theaters of color, for artists of color, and to have a central meeting place so that we could share information. And what has happened now is, in 2001, we started with 12 members. Today we have over 800.
Excellent.
So not-for-profit and for-profit theaters, visual and performing artists, directors, choreographers, designers, technicians, colleges, museums, libraries, the tavern owners, all are in the same organization meeting the first Monday of every month, where over 200 to 250 members come. And I want to share that this year, in celebration of our 10th anniversary, that on October 3rd, we will be presenting our first humanitarian award that will be given to Harry Belafonte at our meeting, a Lifetime Achievement Award that will be presented to Ruby Dee, and then an Arts Leadership Award that will be presented to Danny Simmons, the brother of Russell Simmons, but more importantly, he created the Rush Foundation along with his brothers, and he was the former head of the New York State Council of the Arts. These are the types of things that we do as an organization on a monthly basis, is to connect all of our various disciplines in the arts to sit down and share information.
It sounds like the ultimate network of networks.
It's as they say, it's the hottest ticket in town if you're an arts practitioner.
Well, another hot ticket is Daniel Beaty, who you've been mentoring and coming along. He has two shows. One is Emergency, the other is Through the Night.
Yes.
Let us take a look at excerpt from Emergency. It's very interesting. What is the emergency? Let's look at that.
Yes.
As a boy, I shared a game with my father. Played it every morning till I was 3. He would knock on my door, and I'd pretend to be asleep till he got right next to the bed. Then I would get up and jump into his arms. "Good morning, Papa." And my papa, he would tell me that he loved me. We shared a game, knock, knock, until that day when the knock never came. And my mama takes me on a ride past cornfields on this never-ending highway till we reach a place of high, rusty gates. A confused little boy, I enter the building carried in my mama's arms. Knock, knock. We reach a room of windows and brown faces. Behind one of the windows sits my father. I jump out of my mama's arms and run joyously towards my papa's, only to be confronted by this window. I knock, knock, trying to break through the glass, trying to get to my father. I knock, knock as my mama pulls me away before my papa even says a word. And for years he has never said a word, and so 25 years later I write these words for the little boy in me who still awaits his papa's knock. Papa, come home, 'cause I miss you. Miss you waking me up in the morning and telling me you love me. Papa, come home, 'cause there's things I don't know, and I thought maybe you could teach me how to shave, how to dribble a ball, how to talk to a lady, how to walk like a man. Papa, come home, 'cause I decided a while back I want to be just like you, but I'm forgetting who you are. And 25 years later, a little boy cries, and so I write these words and try to heal and try to father myself, and I dream up a father who says the words my father did not. Dear son, I'm sorry I never came home. For every lesson I failed to teach, hear these words. Shave in one direction with strong, deliberate strokes to avoid irritation. Dribble the page with the brilliance of your ballpoint pen. Walk like a god, and your goddess will come to you. No longer will I be there to knock on your door, so you must learn to knock for yourself. Knock, knock down doors of racism and poverty that I could not. Knock, knock on doors of opportunity for the lost brilliance of the black men who crowd these cells. Knock, knock with diligence for the sake of your children. Knock, knock for me, for as long as you are free, these prison gates cannot contain my spirit. The best of me still lives in you. Knock, knock with the knowledge that you are my son, but you are not my choices. Yes, we are our father's sons and daughters, but we are not their choices. But despite their absences, we are still here, still alive, still breathing, with the power to change this world, one little boy and girl at a time. Knock, knock, who's there? We are.
Now, the emergency was this slave ship showing up in New York.
And yes, in front of the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor, in front of the Statue.
Daniel Beaty is a very creative person. He does all these different roles. He does a stand-up. How'd you get involved with Daniel Beaty?
Very simply, in 2006, Ruby Dee had presented Daniel at Aaron Davis Hall. That's why we're going back to Aaron Davis Hall, in his first major public performance for the work. Mm-hmm. He portrays 43 characters. And I had heard about Daniel, but to see him was just an unbelievable visual observation on what a talented person he is. He wrote it. At that time, he was directing himself, and it was just an unbelievable. I had never seen anything like that.
How did he get those skills?
He started out in the 5th grade, he mentioned. He's from Dayton, Ohio. His father was addicted to crack. His older brother was addicted to crack. And he himself had decided that he needed to break that chain, and spoke to his school teacher, who suggested that he listen to the speeches of Martin Luther King Jr., which he did, which he memorized. And he was then asked to repeat those speeches. And before long, he then became a go-to person when those special days came for him to recite a number of the Martin Luther King speeches. Then he went into other areas and then became, at a very young age, a motivational speaker to young people. And with those skills, he then crafted and perfected them at Yale University and then the American Conservatory of Music. And so he's a triple threat with everything that he does. He's got 43 characters talking in Emergency, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to see his brilliance.
Now, the other play that you're putting on with Daniel Beaty, one-man show, is Through the Night. Let's take a look at that.
Yes.
Every action begins with a thought. And if you don't watch what you're thinking, your thoughts will get the best of you. It's like the mind is an untrained child. You got to teach what to do. Because sometimes my mind, he tells me, you will never be enough. Why even try? You know it's going to be tough. Look at where you live. Broken hopes and broken dreams. At night you lie in bed and scream the silent scream of the bastard child without a father as a guide. There's no daddy by your side, so you push your cry away and fill that space with rage, a rage that keeps you caged in the cycle that never ends. You ain't gonna be no better than the man who fathered you, able to create life but not to follow through. Your daddy left, so you will too. The sin of the father will visit the son. When life gets tough, the abandoned run. So sag your pants and wear a frown. Give up first before life tears you down. Run from dreams and run from hope. It's the only way to cope with the failure you will be. A spitting image of the father you will never even see. Those are the thoughts my mind, he says to me, trying to choke out any type of hope, of possibility, and that's why I stand here on the roof of Building B and talk to my mind. All right, I've heard enough. I know my path is tough, but Mama, she was there and she helped me to prepare. A father, she was not, but still, she gave me a lot. And I have a mentor too, and he helps me make it through. Say what you want, but there's nothing I can't do, because I define my destiny. I won't let doubt get the best of me. I will father myself so my children will see a black man stays. This can be just a phase. This cycle can end. It all depends on where we go from here. You say when life gets tough, the abandoned run. Well, I say run, black man, run. Run to your children, hold them tight, help them make it through the night. Be more than you think you can. Be a black man, take a stand. And when you make it through, reach back and help another black man do what we all know must be done. Run, a black man, run. A fatherless child I may be, but I won't let doubt get the best of me, because I decide who I choose to be. Run, black man, run. Run, black man, run. Run, black man, run.
Run, Black Man, Run is the name of that episode.
Yes.
It's really prototypic about what black men sometimes have to do, and the way he describes it is outstanding.
Again, his brilliance, it's hard to capsulize without getting emotional once you see his work and understand the full significance of that particular piece, because in that, in Through the Night, there is a lot of doubtsayers about what black men are doing and what they aren't doing. And with this piece, Daniel gives an unbelievable performance on how you can change that paradigm, on what's positive and how to get there. And that piece really reflects exactly how he does it. In Through the Night, he plays 16 characters, 6 men, and the other are different voices and women in their lives. Again, just brilliant.
When is this going to be seen again?
After we are at City College, we are now working on a Paul Robeson piece for May, June of this year. So Daniel performs these 2 particular shows all over the country, and I would say around the world. He gets a chance to do that on a regular basis. A lot of our colleges and universities and local centers ask for him to come and perform those pieces. New Heritage Theater is very fortunate in that our executive artistic director, Professor Jamal Joseph, Daniel Beaty and I, we have been working very close together to be the producers of his events, his theatrical events. Daniel lives in Harlem. Jamal and I, we both live in Harlem. And we see this as a new opportunity. He's sharing his talent with our young members of Impact Repertory Theater, and he's helping us develop that next cadre of young actors to understand how he pushes those emotional buttons so that they can also do the same.
Impact Repertory Theater, what's that?
Impact Repertory Theater was founded in 1997 by Jamal Joseph and I. It's an arts and leadership training program. It meets every Saturday. It's free. It's a free program. We ask for commitment and dedication. We don't care about your talent level, but more importantly, this young group take on all sorts of topical issues. It could be the war, it could be what just happened with the elections in Queens, or it could be the fact that our schools are experiencing something called bullying at an alarming level, guns, young people killing each other. They take on those issues, they do workshops, they create monologues, they do poetry, and they create the music.
And they were also nominated for an Oscar.
Nominated for an Oscar in 2008 for a song they wrote for the film August Rush, starring Robin Williams. And the following year, they were nominated for a Grammy for the entire soundtrack for the movie. So they perform. This year alone, we've performed over 100 shows. And
where do they do that?
All over, all over the city. For example, there's going to be an unveiling of the new Frederick Douglass Circle monument, and they're the group that they're asked to open and perform for that ceremony. They're at the Schomburg next month at their open house. They're at Pace University, theaters all over the city, Apollo Theater, senior citizen centers, penal institutions. They're everywhere.
Now, you also do film. I understand New Heritage has a film company now.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that.
Again, with theater, Jamal and I figured that we needed to make sure that the work that we do can be adapted to all of the new technology. And film is one of those ways that we can be in a confined space, but we can reach tens of thousands of people. And so for the last year, well, since 1997, we created New Heritage Films, dedicated to documenting historical institutions and individuals, again, in our community. So we were fortunate enough to do the 95th anniversary of the Urban League. We did the 100th anniversary of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. We did this new project is Sonia Sanchez, that we've been following Sonia Sanchez, artist, lecturer, educator, and activist for the last 5 years. And we've created a new piece on Sonia. We've also done this with Langston Hughes and just other luminaries coming out of the African American diaspora.
Now, where do people see these movies?
We have at the Dwight Cultural Center, we're very fortunate. We have a presenting partner, Community Works, and we tie a lot of our films into the exhibitions that are at the Dwight Cultural Center. So we have films on Harlem's theater history, on the gospel tradition, on the first 4 churches that left downtown New York to move uptown, that started at the beginning of the migration of blacks moving to Harlem. We have it on the Latin community. So we have these different documentaries that we showcase there. But in addition, we're at some of the bigger movie theaters. For example, the Sonia Sanchez project is part of the Urban World Film Festival, and we will show that shortly so that people can see it, and then they can go online and purchase the documentary.
Well, clearly you're trying to do a broad umbrella of the arts in Harlem, in New York City, in various areas. To what extent do you think this is really successful in reaching larger numbers of African Americans and the general population?
The mere fact that Impact, for example, our youth program, reaches 100,000 people yearly. I can't reach 100,000 people with just the theater things we do.
I hope each one of them gives you $1.
Well, I wish that was the case, but part of what we do is it has to be of service. We're teaching the young people that in addition to, yes, there is a fee for their professional services, but more importantly, where are those institutions that need to see the work who can't afford it? We go into Harlem Hospital and we do things for the patients there, inpatients, outpatients, or we may do a performance for the employees there.
Where do you get your money?
Again, it's a combination of angels. There are some angels out there. who really make donations to us, unrestricted donations, that says continue your work. There are the government funders who since the 70s have supported us, and there's the individual contributions from Jamal, Joseph, myself, and our board members.
Well, it's clearly you're doing something that's absolutely necessary. The question I have is, how's this going to continue?
Well, again, we are looking for dynamic leadership to step in. There is a path that we've set up that for the next 2 years, we're sharing all of our secrets on how we are, quote unquote, able to achieve a modicum of success. But the person that we are choosing to work with us also brings a lot to the table. And so that they will deal with a whole new generation of potential donors and funders, and create works that will also help sustain the organization. Because at the end of the day, we need to create revenues from the productions that we do.
Well, I would think that some of the accomplished black entertainers and stars would see this program and decide to call Voza Rivers. What is your email address?
Vo Rivers, V-O Rivers @AOL.com.
Okay, thank you so much, Voza. Today on African American Legends, we've been talking about this great organization, the New Repertory Theater Company, founded by Roger Furman, organized and led by Voza Rivers. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Brown.